The elf relaxes under the tree, enjoying peace. The elf peacefully reflects on the world. The elf craves excitement. Tired of 120 years, the elf seeks change. Summons wind spirits. Done with elven life. Remembers a past life and misses excitement. For them, the forest is... Elves endure for millennia. Their spirit returns to nature. After a century, he's hit his limit. He wants meat, not fruit. The elf gazes up at the sky as a small winged creature drifts away, its slow flight fading into the distance. She lets out a weary sigh, holding something in her hand, her mind heavy with the weight of endless years. The thought of living like this for centuries more feels unbearable, an eternity that has long since lost its... He knows he could drift through ages, but chooses a new road instead. So he leaves the forest, chasing a wider world. Before becoming a spirit, he wants to live it all. He cuts his hair and feels lighter. He leaves the forest without goodbyes. He packs a bow, food, and heads out confident. Half a month in, everything feels new. Beyond the barrier, monsters hunt him. Even so, he smiles. He repurposes fangs and starts learning craftwork. The horizon feels endless. He takes off running. First human city. Entry fee required. He knows money exists, but knows no one here. Reluctantly, he tries to sell the fangs. A party approaches him. The elf girl asks for a moment. She pulls him aside to talk. She asks if he's a high elf. To elves, he glows with immortal light. She asks why a high elf is in a human city. He introduces himself as Asura, bored of the forest and curious about the world. She flatters him, yet questions his motives. She offers help. He accepts. No titles needed. She kneels. He only meant a handshake. He appreciates the help, but plans to slip away after the gate. The White Lake party covers the fee and vouches for it. They explain the ranks. Their team is 6-star, the region's top tier. Entry granted. Any trouble falls on the guarantor. Basic rules. Don't steal, don't brandish weapons. Non-citizens owe a residence tax. He signs his name. Guard Rodner offers help if trouble arises. Welcome to Viscourt City. He marvels at the cityscape. They ask Noble Asur about his plans. Suggestion: register as an adventurer to get ID. He wants a blacksmith to craft from wolf parts. Best smith is a dwarf and won't sell to elves. Elves and dwarves clash. The dwarf may refuse service. He's fine with it. Wants to meet the dwarf. A shop location is enough. She asks if he detests dwarves. He finds it odd to hate someone he's never met. She explains, elves abhor dwarves and metalwork, which scares the forest trees. He questions fearing metal, needs money, and asks if she buys something. He hands her something to sell. Humans use it for a rejuvenation elixir. It's an apple of fruit. Elves love it, and he offers it to repay her help. He gives the fruit for free. She thanks him. Everyone is stunned. She scolds him. Don't flaunt the fruits. Learn about money first. Blacksmith later. He agrees. Tomorrow Irina will teach him about the city. At dawn, he heads to the blacksmith. He enters. Excuse me. Inside the smithy, weapons everywhere. Smith is busy. He apologizes for the wait. The dwarf praises his eye. Asir spots something special. The dwarf kicks the elf out, says he sells nothing to knife. He smiles and bids farewell. Good day, Rock Muncher. He brings a gift, praises the cookery, but says he isn't buying. They trade jabs. Rock Muncher versus Knife Ears, arguing about brews. The dwarf threatens to toss him out, asks what he wants if not shopping. He brings a forest wolf fong. Want a knife made so it won't go to waste. The smith notes it's a grand wolf fong, not a job for an amateur. He wants to learn from the best dwarf to make use of claws and fang. The dwarf notes his strength and suggests adventuring. Asir wants to work on the fong. He assumes the dwarf will craft weapons, but the answer is no. He doesn't want adventuring. Asks to apprentice in smithing for 10 to 20 years. The dwarf calls him crazy, then agrees. Better crazy than haughty. He agrees. I'll teach some smithing so those materials aren't wasted. Whatever path is taken intersects others. Even without understanding, meetings happen. Awkward silence. Then they both smile. They shake hands. He senses unwavering resolve. Handshake seals the deal. He realizes there's no quitting. Irina freaks out. Why is Asur working in a dwarf shop? Why? Because I'll make money if I do. The inn was extravagant. She says naturally it was. He promises to repay once independent. She says that's not the point. Irina fears the iron stench will scare trees and spirits may abandon it. Asura disagrees. Spirits don't really hate the scent of. He explains, trees hate axes but aren't fragile. Spirits were upset by pollution. He asks to keep a potted plant in the shop. The dwarf grumbles and allows it. Asura recommends a cookery and offers spirit lessons, but also pushes a sale. She praises the dwarven cookery and asks to buy it. He agrees, but asks for care and maintenance. She asks to buy the cookery. He refuses, saying she sees what he avoids. She vows to cherish it. He doubts this will ease elf, dwarf. That alone is enough to be happy. A year in Viscourt. Learned to hammer nails. The shop grew, and Irina's team comes to buy, and customers want pots and knives. Metal shortage hurts. The master says, do it yourself, knife ears, and offers to teach. He jokes he's a kept elf. Irina covers costs. Making nails is fun and pays more the more he works. She explains coin values. Lodging is about 50,000 yen per night. Irina insists on paying as tuition for spirit lessons. He even complained to Rodner. Rodner says Irina is the guarantor and can't just leave him. He offers safe housing if he wants to leave the inn. He's grateful. Ties with Rodner, the dwarf master, and Irina make him feel blessed. Irina's party is on a long mission. He'll ask her when she returns, confident she'll agree. He welcomes Martina back and eagerly asks for Irina. Martina begs for help. They need to stop a spirit gone out of control. Asura agrees to listen, and the dwarf moves the talk elsewhere. They go somewhere private. She warns the explanation is long. They got a request from Geralt, over 2 weeks away. Irina was chosen because it involves a spirit at White Lake. The water spirit went berserk and tainted Geralt's river. They asked to end the curse. Irina says a resident angered the spirit. Drinkers fall ill, fish die, yet the surrounding plants are unaffected. He concludes, it isn't a curse, it's pollution. A water spirit can't foul the water it inhabits. The mine's pollution is being blamed on the spirit. Geralt is a new town built on rich ore. He asks what the local lord is like. The lord is a newly minted noble, appointed by the king and eager to expand mine. He may be shifting blame without grasping it's an environmental issue. Irina is trying to appease the vengeful spirit in Geralt, with Kryas guarding her just in case. She rushed back for help. Despite the crisis, Irina's communion with spirits keeps improving. He notes destroying the spirit's water would suppress it, but Irina chose to understand and befriend it to fix things properly. She agrees to help. He offers free help, but says they must consult one more person. They need Master Rock Muncher's help, an expert on metal's harmful effects. The master agrees. If the Blacksmiths Guild investigates, the truth will reach the king. That's why they seek his backing. The master decides. He'll go and investigate himself. The master can't leave the forge for long. He asks to be referred to a guild member and says they can handle it. Dwarves wield strong influence, and a dwarven blacksmith's testimony carries real weight and can reach the king, unlike an ordinary guild report. Besides him, no dwarf would deign to properly hear a knife-ears elf. His backing is therefore essential. After a brief pause, they burst out laughing. He demands to know what's so funny. They move quickly. If the Geralt mine shuts down, metal prices will soar and opposition to new mines will grow. They part ways. The master heads to the royal capital's guild. They ask him to be careful and wish good luck, since it affects everyone. They trust Rock Muncher can handle it. The issue is Geralt's lord. As a high elf living among humans, he'll do what only a knife-ears can, head to Asir, the water spirit, in Geralt. That which only a knife-ears can do. They follow the stream to carry out the elf's unique role. They surprise Kryas at the camp. He recognizes Martina. General relief. Kryas held the fort while waiting for them. He praises their work and explains. Beyond here, the forest mist kills humans by condensing in the windpipe. Waiting for Martina took nearly a month. This place isn't for humans. Once Irina returns, they'll move somewhere safe, and he apologizes for the spirit praises them. They've come far quickly, and it's proud to call them acquaintances. She begs the noble Asir to go back. He reassures her and says to leave the rest to him. Since you're paying my lodging, I should at least earn that pay. Her teammates are waiting. High elves and spirits share the same rank, so Irina may request things but cannot reprimand a spirit. Time to step in. O spirit of this spring, what angers you? She pours out her tale. He braces to listen. Long ago, Locals revered nature and even deified the spring spirit. The land was invaded. Survivors assimilated but kept their faith, and their descendants opposed mining. They were exiled. Fish are dying and the water is fouled. The spirit would act only if entreated, and the tribe chose not to involve it. Even so, the invaders must be washed away. She couldn't allow more pollution for herself, her people, and the land itself. To save the girl and her world, evil must be wiped out completely. Then a precious sapling appeared, settling it. She's set on it, and he grasps the spirit's anger. Not good, but he'll turn the tide in his favor. Don't aim your anger at everyone. Your plan would sweep away innocents, babies, mothers, and well-meaning workers. Especially the children, both here and of your people, are effectively indistinguishable. If you wash everyone away indiscriminately, you won't be the spirit they revered. Your blessings let these people flourish. Please don't misdirect your anger. As for the pollution, a friend is already fixing it. Thus, a water spirit. Summary: Garrett was saved, the cause made public, and White Lake completed the request. The blacksmiths are crafting a fix, and any further mining needs approval. The noble lord was held accountable, and the indigenous tribe's exile was voided. May they return without fear. Sometime later, the former lord took his life in his bathtub. 3 days after, the king who appointed him drowned in his... It was rumored the dismissed lord bore a grudge and gave his life to curse the king, but the truth remains murky. 3 years after starting smithing, once crafting weapons and armor, I happened to meet a boy. The boy wants the mace. A shield and leather boots are suggested for stability, with attack and defense bonuses. He has a solid core. If he saves up and returns for better gear, he'll make a fine adventurer. He's got grit. If things go well, he'll save up, return for better gear, and maybe resume work. The boy's name was Asura. The forge is in full swing. He works intently under the master's haircuts, lens checks, and smithing. A calm, productive routine amid flowers. Planning at the bench and testing the cauldron. Serious faces. Looks like something went wrong. A baby joins the family. Everyone welcomes him with loving, happy tears. It's been 10 years since I began learning smithing. Master Rock Muncher is getting married. He has a fiancée and will take over the family business. He's 90 years old. For a dwarf, that's like a human in their late 20s. He thinks about having a fiancée and is reminded to plan his own future. Either way, it seems it's about time. Master Rock Muncher has taken on many pupils over the past decade. Many pupils can now run their own shops. Even if Rock Muncher leaves, Viscourt won't lack blacksmiths. The seeds he sowed became fine trees. Many once amateur pupils grew, and apprenticing under a dwarf is usually for smiths already accomplished. Exchange glances, quiet curiosity. Even so, Rock Muncher took him in. They formed a real bond, and the apprentice asks about the fiancé. Over the past decade, much has changed. White Lake reached 7-star rank and disbanded 3 years ago. The warrior Cryas and the priestess Martina ended up married. They retired at their peak and now aim to train the next generation. The right move, I'd say. The elf Irina left to find new companions. She bid farewell with a smile and a flood of warnings, like a mom. Rodner, the first person met in town, rose through the ranks to captain of the guard. We still share drinks at the cafeteria. Aster became a true warrior and rushes and excited to tell. I'm 5-star now. He's a solid adventurer, though still short of White Lake's level. In 10 years, so much has happened that it eclipses the prior 100%. He'll return to the Dwarven Kingdom. The other plans to train sword and sorcery in the capital, using his savings. You're as inscrutable as ever. Fine, do as you like. Knife no. Asir. The master states that the student is, without a doubt, the best he has ever had and reinforces that the friendship between them remains unchanged. The master acknowledges without hesitation that this disciple is the finest he has ever trained and assures that their friendship will remain steadfast, with no prospect of change. He reacts unusually and covers his face, while the dwarf bursts into laughter and remarks that such behavior doesn't suit him. The high elf, visibly moved, concedes he won't be visiting the Dwarven Kingdom anytime soon, yet states that Isvald is a master and a friend he could never forget. The dwarf cheers him up, reminds him his strength is charging ahead, and ends with a playful shove. The dwarf proposes a reunion in 50 years, suggesting the elf visit the dwarven kingdom by then. The dwarf vows to become king and open the realm to elven visitors. He asks that, upon returning, his friend proudly introduce himself as his apprentice. In dwarven culture, smithing rules all. Skill alone can raise someone to any social rank, even the crown. He resolves to keep improving and borrows the forge to craft a knife, noting that the master's smithy has been taken over by another pupil. He packs his license in the knife, noting that the master officially licensed him as an advanced rank blacksmith after considerable pressure on the dwarven side. He sets off after a snack, estimating the royal capital is about 10 days by carriage and even longer on foot. He heads for the royal capital, choosing to walk so he can reflect on the past 10 years. Arriving in Werfiel, Ludria's capital, the elf stands out as a high-ranked blacksmith living among humans and looking to learn more. Welcome to the capital. The elf arrives casually, enjoying street food. The capital, richer and busier, hosts many sword schools. The top 3 are known as the 3 disciplines. He scans right to left and declines all 3. Kingdom balance is too safe, Lodrin spinning greatsword too niche, and Grin's pressure wall not his style. He pauses, recalls a 4th sword school that faded away for lack of students, and keeps walking. A street duel flares. The woman's blade flashes past, and the elf snaps to attention, caught between curiosity and caution. She whips a blade in a tight arc and splits the apple cleanly on the stand. Calm and precise, she finishes the cut and meets the crowd's gaze without a word. He's stunned. A dull blade shouldn't slice that clean, yet it just did. He watches by the fountain, unable to deny it. Her swing is precise, graceful, and real. Impressed, he drops a silver coin on her table and bows in thanks. Overwhelmed, he bows repeatedly and begs to be her apprentice, offering tuition and chores. He asks her style's name. She admits she doesn't know yet. He doesn't care about the name. He just wants to master that blade. She agrees to take him to her dojo. He beams, certain she'll win him over. She leads him to her dojo, once prestigious, now a creaking ruin. A feud after a defeat left the dojo's master dead, students divided, and the school in ruins. She reveals her school collapsed after the tragedy. Only she and her mother were spared. She keeps her father's teachings alive in her own way, but says the style survives now as performance, not combat. She smiles and refuses him gently, warning that learning her style would only attract Lodrin's ire. He accepts the risk and declares her style is exactly what he wants to learn. He shrugs off Lodrin's reputation. She agrees to teach if he lets her tune his sword for a week. He vows to be her first apprentice. She introduces herself as a high elf archer and spirit talker, and a certified master blacksmith. They welcome him as an official apprentice and offer the guest room on the spot. He gathers herbs for Keha's ill mother, brews a sweet tonic, and quickly becomes part of the household routine. He joins the blacksmith's guild, takes small jobs, and upgrades both his sword and Keha's. He networks at the guild, spreads word of his training, and draws attention to the dojo's revival. He commits to the dojo and its family, shelving sorcery for now to protect what he's chosen. A reply arrives from Kryas. He also seeks a famed 7-star to deter Lodrin troublemakers. Kryas answers, "Let him handle Lodrin, and please don't level any Lodrin buildings." He laughs off the warning, writes back, and plans to visit Warfield to talk things out in person. He reflects on fragile relationships, hoping Kryas' visit won't reopen wounds, and tempers his own pushy nature. Her radiant smile convinces him. This is the kind of connection he wants to cherish. Training finally begins, straightforward drills side by side in the old dojo. Practice is repetitive. He mirrors Keha's swings, sharpening form through imitation. Since she's never taught before, they default to copying her form. Imperfect pedagogy, but perfect for him. Forging a swordsman is like forging steel. Steady work, small fixes, and plenty of breaks. Progress comes in tiny tweaks. Adjust, rest, repeat, until the shape finally holds. Step by step, with time on his side, he keeps shaping himself forward. About 6 months in, Kryas arrives at the dojo with a friendly wave. Kryas visits Lodrin first, then hears Keiha's side while the narrator backs him. Kryas apologizes deeply for Lodrin's trouble. To him, the elf is just a tough adventurer. They're charmed by Kryas' honor, pepper him with questions, and host him overnight. Keiha excitedly asks for a spar, and Kryas agrees to a practice round. In the spar, Kryas overwhelms Keiha instantly. She can't touch him. In the spar, Kryas overwhelms Keiha instantly. She can't touch him. Breathless, Keiha concedes defeat to Kryas. Kryas critiques kindly. Her form's solid, but she lacks real combat experience, something he has plenty of. Her loss stings, but he takes it in stride. Slow and steady, they'll fix the gaps together. Kryas' advice: pause training to adventure for 1 to 2 years to gain real combat experience. Kryas points out the obvious. The strongest ally has been beside her all along. During practice, she thanks Asura for all his help. Through tears, she thanks them both. He asks one last favor: permission to leave and become an adventurer. She asks him to watch over her mother while she pursues the sword's path on the road. Before he leaves, she'll forge him armor. His conditions: keep their paths aligned and use his Visicourt home as base. He plans to house her in Visicourt, where friends, the church, and the guild can support and train her safely. He promises to become a worthy swordswoman. She asks him to wait just a bit longer. 3 years later, he trains alone in the rebuilt dojo, broke but honoring his promise to guard Keiha's mother, his smithing sword during training. Now he's invited to showcase his best piece before the king. He's climbing fast. 3rd last year, 2nd this year. Only dwarves beat him, and nobles now court his work. News arrives. A letter from Keiha just reached the forge, and he rushes to read it. Every few months, Keiha's letters arrive, full of clumsy, charming adventure tales and mishaps. Her rank skyrockets: 4-star in year 1, 5-star in year 2, solo. She's blooming fast thanks to real fights, and Kryas mentors her, something he envies from afar. She's blooming fast thanks to real fights, and Kryas mentors her, something he envies from afar. They open Keiha's letter. Her news shocks them both. Big news: Keiha hits 6-star rank, and there's more coming soon. The kicker: she's coming home. After 3 long years, his master returns. Chapter opens with the forge roaring when someone bursts in shouting Asura's name. Since the letter, he's been pushing non-stop at the forge, until Mom calls him in for dinner. Mom's cooking feasts daily, hoping Keiha returns. He dutifully digs in each night. He prays, then cleans every plate to honor her effort, hoping Keiha returns soon. A spirit butterfly arrives. He bolts mid-meal, grabs his sword, and rushes out. Footsteps approach the gate. Guided by the spirit, he waits, tense, and ready. Footsteps approach the gate. Guided by the spirit, he waits, tense, and ready. The gate slides open at dusk. Keiha's silhouette steps in as he stares, stunned. She leaps in without warning. Their reunion begins with crossed steel. Asura parries cleanly, reflexes honed, and resolve steady. Their blades pause. 3 years of training clearly weren't wasted. 3 years later, she returns radiant. "Welcome back, Master." At the gate, a familiar silhouette greets them. "Long time, no see." They reunite at last. Asura greets her softly. "Irina." Eyes wet, Irina asks if he still needs her strength. The priestess arrives requesting Asura's help. Kryas sent her, and Keiha led the way. Irina pleads for help on behalf of elves taken captive. Deep within a grim, stone dungeon, 3 elven women are brutally chained to the walls, stripped and bound. A desolate scene of captivity, hinting at a vile scheme. Many elves outside the great sea of trees aren't battle-trained, so slavers target them easily. Spirit communion is rare mid-battle. Without military force, humans couldn't seize elves so easily. Spirit communion is rare mid-battle. Without military force, humans couldn't seize elves so easily. The swordsman chooses caution after the elves regroup, knowing true strength isn't just magic or combat, but survival. Nobles attack hidden elf settlements with private armies. Most people never notice, as elves keep to themselves. In a cruel act of domination, An elven woman is forcibly blindfolded and administered a substance by a captor, completely vulnerable to their torment. Humans prize elves, but try to bend them. Without true bonds, elves are reduced to dependence and treated like animals. He rejects slavery outright, yet admits elves' rarity makes them highly prized. Powerful nobles lead the raids, and the kingdom looks away. Elven slavery is turning trendy among nobles, and legalization may be next unless they're exposed and punished. He realizes she seeks help not for herself, but for her people. To end the cycle, he vows to etch this pain into the kingdom's memory so elves never suffer it again. He'll broadcast elven outrage, free captives, and push a mass exodus if the kingdom won't change. If elves leave the forests, monsters will spill out. Even so, he'll press for emigration to save lives. He reassures Irina gently and asks her to face forward. He's ready to leave the country if needed, reminding her none of this is her fault. He pauses to leave, then admits he hasn't taught Keha what she needs yet. She reminds him he healed her mother and took her in as an apprentice. She thanks him for years of guidance and for changing her life even before that. Through tears, she insists she's given him nothing in return. She breaks down, then addresses him softly. Master, her resolve reignites. His example gives her a new path to follow. She urges him to keep going, teach the next generation, and pass the torch forward. Carry it forward, teach others, and keep walking the path you started. Irina stays bowed, and they share a quiet nod of resolve. She apologizes to both of them, finally admitting her hidden plan, and he accepts with a quiet understood. She vows to refine her sword and pass the legacy to a successor. She steels herself as his student and asks him to visit again while she still lives. He smiles, and their hands meet in quiet promise. He bows in gratitude. Her resolve and Keha's blade stay with him. He leaves smiling, grateful for the bond they forged. A heavy boot crushes the desolate, cracked ground, a silent symbol of destruction. After 6 months of groundwork, he resolves to free every captive elf in a single sweep, leaving no one behind and no evidence for nobles to erase. After much deliberation, he plans how to strike a noble's land. He considers asking a water spirit to flood the estate, then rejects it, too much collateral damage. He rejects calling wind and fire spirits for a flaming tornado, too many deaths, and it could spark a human-elf war. He calls on the land spirits for a grand show with minimal harm. Lend me your aid. The spirits answer. Light bursts, wind surges, and his plan ignites without mass harm. He centers himself. A low, horizontal tremor ripples east toward the noble's domain. The ground hums under his feet as reports pour in. The land itself is rumbling. The tremor is mild but unforgettable. First-timers panic, and everyone feels it, nobles and commoners alike. The tremor is the signal. Elves evacuate, adventurers break chains, and the state scrambles to apologize as monsters surge into the empty woods. Only when the state's formal apology is etched into history can they hope this tragedy won't repeat. Irina leads the talks, but darker truths linger. Captives' pregnancies and abandoned half-elf children risk continuing the cycle despite peace efforts. Irina leads the talks, but a grim aftermath remains. Captives' pregnancies, half-elves shunned for frailty and short lives. Their newborns abandoned, the cycle poised to begin anew. The young warrior must leave the country, regretting that he never learned magic while he was there. The young warrior sets off, unsure where to go next. He sees the sea ahead and moves forward. Excited, the young warrior celebrates seeing the sea. He arrives in Valestrica, a small country known for its strong maritime trade. Valestrica has border conflicts and is at odds with Pelugia. Lydia was richer than Pelugia, and getting water there was easy. He thanks and makes a promise to the girl who shared water with him. Asura says he came from Lydia seeking a fresh start, far from his past. He just wants to eat seafood. He looks for a raw fish restaurant popular with local fishermen. He steps into the bustling restaurant. He asks to sit and is warmly welcomed. He gets oysters and fish salad, eager to eat. The food is delicious and he's really happy. The meal is perfect and he feels content. He eats happily, says goodbye, and promises to return. A fight breaks out in the restaurant after a misunderstanding. A woman helps him after the fight. He saves the woman and stops the fish from falling. The fish falls, causing a mess. Asura fights back and punches the attacker. The two fight and apologize to the fish. Tension rises as the chef steps in. After the fight, everyone apologizes. Everyone makes up and explains the misunderstanding. The man offers to fish to make up for it. They just need to pay for the damage. Everyone leaves peacefully. Asura quickly befriends key townsfolk. Asura worries that one of the men ran off. Asura suspects the man who escaped. Thinking it odd, he complained about the food and then vanished. Dronzer said he was from a trading company. Asura realizes that getting hurt could hinder his smithing and dueling. He decides to be more careful. Asura wants to avoid being unfair to Isvald and Keha. Asura goes to bed early to train, thinking of his strict master. Asura realizes he's late and rushes to find Dronzer. Asura finds the rude man, and trouble breaks out. Asura tries to calm things down, but another fight starts. Asura avoids conflict, just wanted to talk to Dronzer. Asura's group gets blamed for the fight. The enemy's plan was to start a fight and get revenge. Asura is hungry. A big brawl starts, and sea spirits appear. Asura impresses Dronzer and sends everyone into the water. Asura only let himself get hit to avoid hurting the other guy. Asura prefers to fight alone and values fair play. Dronzer thanks Asura and asks if he wants anything. Asura serves boiled octopus to everyone. The town has a harbor conflict between fishermen and merchants. Each group has a noble family backing them. The Tritrine family leads the merchants. The more fish they sold, the more money they made. The town grew from this. Deal cracks. Fishers want a small harbor. Merchants want a bigger one. The main conflict there is over the harbor. Dronzer is a leader among young fishermen. The situation is complex. Lorette wanted to demoralize the fishermen. No one is truly evil, but the deadlock remains. The traveler suspects a trap and ignores the invitation from someone notorious for shady dealings, even after receiving an apology letter. He simply continues his stay in the town, cautious and distant. Facing a hostile group on the shore, the traveler immediately prepares to defend himself, calling on earth spirits for protection. The traveler uses his powers, causing the sand to trap the attackers and stop their movements. He draws his sword and swiftly incapacitates his stunned foes. As the enemies try to flee, he asks the earth spirits for help again, easily stopping them. He ends up trapping 10 people, including his attackers and their rescuers. Guards investigate and expose fraud. Lorette was harassing the fishermen. Lorette was punished for their crimes and lost family support. The company's attack fails, causing more trouble for the family, but local problems persist. Two powerful families let their people fight to settle disputes, but nothing really changes and the traveler feels used. He keeps enjoying seafood at the tavern for another month. On his final night, he enjoys a popular seafood dish with good company as the tavern thrives. He jokes about needing more staff as the tavern is busier and new dishes get added. He tells her he's leaving soon, hoping it eases her busy days. He realizes he's been watched the whole time. Spies from powerful families keep track of him. He suspects Karina secretly set Lorette up, though he's unsure if Grand was involved. He confirms Karina is tough and encourages more eating, as it means less work for her. He promises to return for the seafood as friends say they'll miss him. He says goodbye, planning to leave for a new country the next morning. They end with a cheerful high five, celebrating their friendship. He hopes to return someday, while the town remains mostly the same. His next destination is Odine, the land of sorcery in the Eastern United League. After the Azed Empire split, the region became many city-states, often in conflict. These small countries unite in alliances to resist foreign invasions. Odine is independent, focused on magic research, and trains powerful sorcerers for war. He heads to Odine to learn magic, hoping to find a skilled tutor. Even if he can't find a teacher, exploring Odine will satisfy his curiosity. He prefers walking to riding carriages, since they make him feel sick. He sent a letter about his travels to Odine, hoping to meet Irina there. He wonders if traveling by boat would make him feel sick too. If he could travel by boat, his travel options would expand, so he plans to ask Dries for a ride if he returns. He arrives at Jamon. He sees the town, famously called a stone adrift in a sea of gold by a local poet. He feels spiritually richer just knowing the poetic phrase and gets ready to enter with his smithing license. He plans a short stay, will do some smithing to be recognized, and ease the guard's suspicions. A cheerful girl greets, asking if he's there for dinner or a room. He chooses both dinner and a room, and shares his name as he checks in. She's shocked when he reveals his identity. She guides him to his room and explains the extra cost for bath and laundry. She curiously peeks at him as he heads upstairs. She nervously asks if he is an elf, then worries about being rude as he gently reassures her. He confirms he's an elf and asks if it's her first time seeing one. She has seen elves before, but never had one as a guest. She hands him the room key and reminds him not to lose it. The room is simple, but the bed is comfy for the price. He might stay for a while, depend on the food. His first meal is bread, wine, and bacon pasta. He really enjoys the meal. She asks if he liked the food. The food exceeded his expectations. He'll always stay at this inn. He accepts the job to make 10 spearheads at the blacksmith guild. He starts the smithing job, having access to everything needed. He must model the spearheads in that simple shape with no upper limit on the order. He considers improving the spearhead design, making as many as possible. He forges spearheads better than the sample and will finish tomorrow. The compliments make him happy, even if it was just curiosity. The dwarf complains about the tip shape, but he says he didn't want to interrupt while working. The dwarf decides to teach him, telling him to watch closely. He misses Master Rock Muncher scolding him. For an elf, parting ways with his master wasn't that long ago. The land is fertile and the people are wealthy. He tours the town while she's amazed by the dessert. Nana guides him around town in exchange for sweets. He lets Nana eat as much as she wants and notes it's been a week in town. He works 6 days and rests 1, just like before. He turned in 32 spearheads and expects a new job tomorrow. He wipes her face as she enjoys, saying it's really good. Cakes, pancakes, and cookies are pricey. Nana had never tried cake before. Eating well makes him feel richer in spirit and more lively. They enjoy the sweets and reflect on human culture. Northern Zaire is militaristic and mercenary. There's talk of invasion, and he recalls his past. He offers her half of the cake, smiling. She enjoys eating, and he decides to ask for details at the guild. It's still uncertain, but reinforcements are heading north, and the A's alliance may gather. He gets praise for the sword he's making, but has no intention of joining the war. His new job is to forge the best sword possible, regardless of cost. He forges a single-edged straight sword, like the Isoguryu school he knows well. He looks at the sword, thoughtful and silent. He's going to test the sword with a few swings, and a colleague asks if everyone will have to practice too. Using the Isoguryu style fully focuses his mind. He hasn't finished the sword yet, but aims for the ideal shape, weight, and balance. Even unfinished, he tries to shape what he envisions, feeling inspired. Only his 2 masters could understand his effort to shape what he envisions. For him, his master's understanding is enough. Others need only see the result. The final product will speak for itself. He works at the forge, surrounded by helpers. He sands and examines the sword carefully. The others are impressed by the finished sword. He lies down, exhausted as night falls. He is completely exhausted after weeks of work. He wanted to rest for 3 days after finishing the sword, which earned him a big reward. A young girl offers to bring Mr. Asura his meal. When he accepts, her initial shyness melts away into a purely joyful smile. He reflects on her small kindnesses, realizing her support was his motivation. Grateful, he decides he'll repay her with a cake outing. Frustrated by his lack of progress and inability to help his friends, he feels a growing sense of loneliness. He realizes helping his friends would have been a greater reward than gold. She sees him off with a radiant, unforgettable smile. Charmed by her farewell, he already feels tempted to return to their inn. After an extended stay, he begins the multi-day journey to Odine, realizing he'll need to ask for directions along the way. He considers taking a carriage for speed, but dismisses the idea, knowing he'd get motion sick. He travels by day and camps alone at night. He spots some tempting apples. The fruit orchards signal his arrival in Ardino. His polite refusal of an apple is met with a sudden, startling crash. A monstrous boar attacks the orchard, and a worker screams for an adventurer. A worker is knocked to the ground. The man freezes in terror as the boar looms over him. As the boar charges the workers, he steps in its path. He swiftly strikes the boar, stopping its attack. He swiftly draws another arrow and takes aim. He releases a powerful, charged shot. His arrow lands a critical hit. The workers stare in stunned silence. He justifies the kill by insisting the creature's body not be wasted. He shyly asks for a place with water to butcher the animal. The shocked workers agree to help, leading him to a nearby house. The rescued man thanks him profusely. He happily feasts on the boar, glad none of it will be wasted. He's shown the route to Foka, which passes through Palnor village on a river leading to Lake Zir. He considers leaving the hide to be tanned, but realizes he can't wait months because of Irina. He politely declines the rescued man's offer to stay longer, explaining he's in a hurry. He bids the grateful workers farewell and continues on his way. He briefly stops in Palnor to leave the hide for tanning, planning to collect it on his return trip. He comes across other travelers camped for the night. He's awestruck by the sight of Lake Zir. He learns the fastest route to Lurvite is a day-long boat trip across the lake. A drumbeat keeps the rowers in sync and wards off monsters. He enjoys the boat ride, finding it much better than a carriage. He recalls that Laurent is a mirror image of the city of Foka. He plans one night in Laurent before reaching Odine, content with his rushed journey. Content with his journey, he finally approaches his destination, Odine. He arrived in Odine at night. He learns his first stop in the city must be the public office. He eagerly awaits morning to take the magician aptitude test. At the public office, he learns the aptitude test is mandatory to study sorcery. He worries about what will happen if he fails. As his turn arrives, he nervously reflects on his limited magical options. He politely greets the examiner. The examiner is flustered, having never tested an elf before. Annoyed by the comment, he presses the examiner for an explanation. He learns that dwarves rarely pass the test needed to enchant weapons. The thought of making a magic sword excites him. The examiner explains that since aptitude is required for magic items, it's a very niche field. The examiner presents the tools for the aptitude test. He follows instructions, holding a rod in each hand and touching the tips together. To his surprise, the rods erupt in a brilliant spark. The examiner confirms his aptitude is perfect, much to his delight. He dismisses the first option, a military academy, due to its service requirement. He also passes on the Adventurers Academy due to its long service contract. He's excited by the fourth option, apprenticeship, but the examiner hesitates. The examiner warns him that his spirit magic will cause envy among sorcerers, but still offers his support. He spent the week searching for a sorcerer to take him as an apprentice. Just as predicted, every sorcerer he approached rejected him with hostility. Discouraged, he began working at the blacksmith's guild instead. He recalls his master questioning if spirit magic was a type of sorcery. While contemplating settling for the basic sorcery academy, his blacksmithing duties interrupt him. A stranger abruptly confronts him. The stranger confirms he has found Asir, the elf blacksmith. To his shock, the stranger begs to be taken on as his apprentice. The stranger desperately clings to his leg, refusing to let go until he's accepted. He finally relents, agreeing to hear the stranger out. The young man introduces himself as Koshman Fiedel, a magician, surprising Asir. The magician passionately declares he wants to learn smithing to create a magic sword. Koshman's master was Rajal, a rare dwarven magician. Koshman studied magic equipment under his master, Rajal, until the dwarven magician was recalled to his kingdom. Rajal departed, leaving his apprentice with the parting words that his future growth was now his own responsibility. The magician chose Asir as his master after being awestruck by his swordsmithing. He explains he came to the guild after learning Asir's dwarven quality sword was forged by an elf. He's horrified to realize his personal information was leaked. He desperately begs to be taught, promising to do anything. Amused, he recalls his own desperate history of securing an apprenticeship. Seeing the irony, he tests the magician's promise to do anything. He proposes a trade, smithing lessons for sorcery lessons, revealing their shared goal of crafting a magic sword. The magician eagerly agrees to the deal, which Asir chalks up to fate. Asir enters Koshman's atelier. He's impressed by the atelier, which reminds him of his master's forge. Asir asks what he should make, but the magician humbly replies that anything will do. Asir perceives Koshman's deep respect for his master and, relating to the sentiment, prepares to forge. Asir's decision to forge a simple sword first fills the magician with absolute delight. He recognizes they are two halves of a whole and establishes a simple rule for their new partnership. Disagreements will be settled with their fists. They form a partnership, hoping their shared goal will lead to friendship. His sorcery lessons began the next morning, starting with fundamental mana control. He effortlessly succeeds at a task normally difficult for humans, leaving his teacher stunned by elven talent. Pleased with his progress, the magician explains that sorcery is a formula combining intent, speech, and patterns. He's stunned to learn that mastering sorcery requires studying massive volumes of accumulated knowledge. The magician contrasts his studied sorcery with the elf's innate ability to borrow power from spirits. He realizes his innate talent must seem like cheating, a thought that leaves his teacher speechless. The magician dismisses the idea of cheating, comparing the elf's natural talent to a bird's ability to fly. He reassures him that with will and aptitude, he has every right to learn, making envy irrelevant. Moved by his words, he offers a heartfelt thanks. And so, they began their daily routine of trading smithing and sorcery lessons. Their days were spent working and studying, bonding over their shared dream of creating a magic sword. The elf and his apprentice study. He stops to munch and points. There's an illustration in this book, a simple, curious exchange. Sharing a laugh, the elf and his apprentice grin at each other. They acknowledge their simple truth. After all, we're ultimately just boys. In the study, the elf and his friend relax, sharing wild, imaginative dreams of crafting fantastic, powerful weapons. After settling into Odine, the elf receives a letter and a package. He smiles, recognizing the material of the wrapping as greenskin boar leather. The elf reads Irina's letter. Ludria executed the slaver nobles, but offered no formal apology to the elves. The elf reflects on the consequence. Without the elves, Ludria's forest will overflow with monsters within 3 to 5 years. His reaction is calm. That's about what I was expecting. The elf confirms the decree. No elves will return to Ludria without a public, formal apology. He expects a long wait. The letter confirms a grim detail. One elf is carrying a human child. The elf sighs, musing it will be over a decade before he sees Keha again. The final request. The village chief asks the elf to take custody of the child, whose spiritual ability is unknown. The elf sighs, considering the challenge. Caring for a child with such a short lifespan. The elf wrestles with the weight of his promise. He must take full responsibility for his words and not abandon the half-elf child. The apprentice points out the elf's emotional turmoil. The elf responds with a straight face. Of course I do. The elf embraces the child's future. He will give them love and the freedom to choose any path. The elf embraces his future. He promises to be the child's loving guardian and closest companion. While meditating, the elf has an idea. Magic tools are slow. Normal sorcery is faster. The apprentice panics. Haste ruins verbal spells. The elf counters. In an ambush, a magic tool is better. They conclude, specialized magic tools are vital lifesavers, maximizing their value. The apprentice thinks deeply. The elf remains skeptical. It's uncertain if such a magic tool would ever work or see use. The apprentice proposes, let's give it a shot. The elf, eyes sparkling, replies, sounds like fun. Eager to begin, they decide to start small and simple. They plan to forge their first magic item, a short metal wand. The Odine routine, study and forge. The elf works with intense focus, using a tiny hammer and chisel for detailed smithing. 3 years pass. The apprentice states, magic is just studying. The elf counters, I only remember what interests me. The Dradian army invaded northern Zaire. Northern Zaire requested Azed Alliance backup, which unites countries to repel foreign invaders. Their crafted magic wand was used in battle and saved lives. During a night raid, the magic wand created a barrier and saved the student. The wand's success made Koshman Odine's sole magic tool specialist, adopted by the army. The elf asks about new apprentices. Koshman refuses. I'm here to study magic tools and swords. The military pushes the apprentice to publish. The elf warns. If he hides his research, magic tool development will stop. The elf motivates his apprentice. Publish the spell formula, and we can finally move on to the magic sword. I'll carve it into the blade. The apprentice slumps, giving in with a sigh of weary resignation. With shared, determined enthusiasm, the elf and his apprentice seal their pact with a fist bump. 2 years from now, the elf's training with Koshman will conclude. The elf will then leave to take custody of the half-elf child. In 2 years, they will both leave their current home, each carrying a co-created magic sword. The elf and his apprentice stand united, ready to test the limits of their collective ability. It's time to begin prototyping. The apprentice works with focused intensity, carefully carving a complex pattern while the elf observes. Exhausted from work and study, they collapse onto the floor. Alternating between study and forge, they triumphantly celebrate their crafted success. Year 4. The elf and his apprentice look on, utterly surprised by a scene at their home. The elf and his apprentice celebrate in pure ecstasy. They successfully created the magic sword. The apprentice urgently channels magic into the blade, which ignites with surging power. The apprentice beams, holding the sword as it crackles and burns with dark magic. The magic sword is complete. The elf smiles, grateful to the fate that brought them together for this creation. The apprentice laughs freely. The apprentice's project is complete. Next up, it is time for the elf to make his own magic sword. The dual routine continues. Quiet meditation by the fire, and intense study in the atelier. Year 5. The elf stands ready to begin the offensive arts exam in a mountainous setting. The elf, radiating confidence, begins the sorcerer certification exam watched by Odine's leaders. The elf casts a powerful spell with an open palm, causing a massive, fiery explosion. The elf stands determined, surrounded by the crater his magic created, ready to defend his apprentice. The elf passes the exam, proclaiming his identity as Asir, apprentice to Koshman Feudal. The apprentice returns triumphantly. The elf greets him, now Asir, the elven blacksmith/sorcerer. The elf, now equipped with his magic sword, prepares to depart and retrieve the half-elf child. After 5 years, the magic sword is finished. With their training complete, the elf and his apprentice prepare to go their separate ways. The elf worries whether Koshman will ever pass his specialized knowledge to others. The elf reflects that things made by hand endure. He notes that Koshman showed zero interest in romance and took only one apprentice. The elf smiles widely, presenting the magic sword, which he optimized for his own personal use. The elf proudly displays his razor-thin sword, inscribed with magic that enhances both strength and sharpness. The sword draws magic from the user, and its sheath was crafted from sprite silver. Sprite silver draws magic by touch. The elf uses it to channel magic into his sword just by wearing the sheath. The elf admits Koshman's sword is stronger, but his own is insanely over-specialized. He knows only his sword master will see its true value. The apprentice proposes combining a blazing blade with an icy one. The elf finds the cool combination appealing. The elf and his apprentice part ways on the road, acknowledging their paths, and their swords diverge. The elf waves goodbye to his apprentice, leaving Odine with a hopeful smile and the promise of a future return. The elf smiles, reflecting that by the time he returns, Koshman will be middle-aged or in his elder years. Asur the sorcerer sets off from Odine, joyfully anticipating showing his friend a new magic sword someday. The elf joyfully stretches, leaving the city. He prepares to travel and review his homemade map before meeting Irina. The elf reviews his homemade map, tracing his past travels and current path. He is in Gideal, heading towards Zane's. The elf smiles, pleased to be just 2 days from Zane's capital, where he will retrieve the half-elf child. The elf arrives in Zane's capital and settles into the Swede inn, enjoying the soft bed. The elf slides the door open, entering the room with a friendly smile. Asir and Irina meet again. Irina notes that Asir seems less gloomy than before. He agrees and offers her a seat, mentioning that a formal apology from the Ludrian royal family is on its way. After the crisis, the country's economy is in decline. Other nations, seeing the weakness and a halt in exports, are now considering war. Irina expresses her certainty that the royal family will act quickly to rebuild. Asir replies, praising her work and stating they couldn't have achieved this without her. Irina blushes and giggles, admitting she only acted by imagining what Asir would do. Asir expresses his desire to protect the country, as it is now home to many people he cares about, including Kryas and Martina. Irina worries about the many remaining problems, but Asir reassures her that she can handle them. Irina smiles warmly, praising Asir as a hero and a history maker. He, in turn, giggles and admits that because of her, he isn't worried. Asir, looking around, suddenly asks where you know who is. He then happily announces that the person is in his room, taking a midday nap. Irina informs Asir that she has asked the spirits to notify them when the child wakes up. Asir sighs, stating he is tired of waiting. Irina then asks if he is certain about the situation. Irina worries about Asir's deep love and the half-elf child's short life, fearing it will only cause him heartbreak. Standing back to back, Asir asks Irina if her concerns are truly for him, or if she is projecting her own anxieties. Asir reveals that Irina's fear of outliving her loved ones is what led to her breakup with Kryas. Irina, stunned, tries to deny it, but Asir states that she will likely pass on before he does. Asir explains that if he retreated from others due to the fear of loss, he couldn't associate with anyone, a life he couldn't bear to live. Asir recalls a friend from his previous life who told him that regret achieves nothing, making it important to live without regrets in the present moment. He states those words still stick with him. A spirit butterfly appears, and Asir, smiling, says, "Looks like it's time." He then tells Irina he is leaving. Acknowledging his long lifespan, Asir states he might outlive everyone, humans, dwarves, and half-elves, but he refuses to isolate himself. He resolves to live without regrets. Asir quietly closes the door. The panel shifts to show the half-elf child, dazed, waking up in bed. Asir, overwhelmed, clutches his chest and thinks, so cute. Asir, having composed himself, greets the child and realizes the boy still has no name. The half-elf child is hesitant and tries to speak. The half-elf child looks at Asir and cries out, "Shiny, pretty." The boy's sight confirms the child has a good eye for the immortal light of his high-elf soul. Asir believes this ability will ensure the boy easily finds spirits and friends. Asir, laughing and cuddling the child, admits the scene looks bizarre to outsiders. He concludes, however, that since they are both enjoying it, it's a win-win. The half-elf child's words remind Asir of a line from Irina's letter about a boy born in the winter who is still unnamed. He then agrees to take care of the boy. Smiling, Asir looks at the boy and declares, "From this day forth, your name is Win." Asir introduces himself. "My name is Asir." He adds that the high elves in the forest also call him Maple Child. Asir pats the boy's head, promising to be both his guardian and friend, asking for his agreement. The boy looks up with wide, shining eyes. Asir offers a final greeting to the boy. The newly named Win nods shyly in acknowledgement. Asir smiles happily, clearly finding the child cute. He expresses his delight at the decision to take care of the boy as they embrace. Asir lifts the boy high, showing deep happiness that the child was born. Holding the boy, Asir ponders his next move, realizing his carefree lifestyle must change with the child, and worries about Irina finding out. Asir plans to work to be a role model and avoid Irina's help, requiring him to find childcare for Win. Asir rejects returning to Ludria until the country stabilizes and dismisses Karina in Velestrica, deciding a spy network leader is unsuitable for childcare. Asir dismisses Koshman as a potential caretaker, believing he'd be a terrible influence on the boy. At a restaurant, an amazed person remarks that Asir has thoroughly planned things out and is shocked. Asir and the child sit with Irina, eating. The astonished person is shocked that Asir, who usually just reacts to problems, has planned things out, leading Asir to chuckle and agree he's growing up. The astonished person asks when he intends to set off. Asir, carrying Win, says goodbye to Irina on a busy street. The image also shows a shot of the docks, and Win sitting near a wall. The final panel shows the start of their journey. Asir and Win sleeping, a map detailing their long route, and a final happy image of them picking apples with a farmer. Asir, holding the boy, decides to adopt him. The newly named Win gives a small wave, observed with affection by Asir. A woman named Nana happily introduces herself to Win, offering to talk anytime, and asks to hold him. Nana, smiling widely, introduces herself to Win and asks to hold the child. Irina expresses her concern, stating that she knows how deeply Asir cares for others and that taking in a half-elf child, with their shorter lifespan, will only lead to heartbreak for him. Nana, radiating happiness, tells Win he will be helping her look after the end. Asir laughs, relieved, concluding the new arrangement is going over the boy's head for now, but he'll adjust. Asir tells Nana he wants Win to be able to adjust to new environments, and Nana assures him she will help with that. With a hug, Nana tells Win she will cool his macaroni gratin for him, and Asir, relieved to see the boy cared for, realizes he's hungry. The half-elf child looks at a beautiful dessert with wide-eyed excitement. Years later, Asir and Win are seen with Nana and other children sharing a meal. Asir, holding the boy, decides to adopt him. The newly named Win gives a small wave, observed with affection by Asir. Asir and Win enjoy various foods from fish to meat and vegetables, with Asir noting his fondness for tarts. Asir, looking at Win, thinks about the future, smiling as Nana scolds the boy for being messy. Asir, carrying Win on a horse, dreams of a food and travel tour across the land with the boy. A man in the background watches a boy with elven ears laugh happily. The man thinks to himself that the boy does not have much time to do what he wants. A man from the blacksmith guild interrupts Asir, who remembers working for the guild briefly 6 years prior. Asir, drinking tea, is pleased by the attention from the blacksmith guild member and considers taking on some work, though not immediately, as he wants to spend time with Win first. After a month of rest, Asir is offered 2 jobs, repairing guard equipment and providing instruction. The blacksmith guild member thanks Asir and reveals that the sword Asir forged there is now on display, which greatly honors and pleases Asir. The blacksmith guild member offers Asir a 3rd job, an audience with the king of Travia, who is intrigued by the idea of an elven blacksmith. Asir accepts the repair job, declining the others for now, but says he might seek advice about the apprentices later. Asir, smiling, is happy to work with the blacksmith guild again, calling the opportunity an honor. Asir, having found work at the blacksmith guild, is warmly greeted by old friends and colleagues, who are happy to see him again. Asir, holding the boy, decides to adopt him. The newly named Win gives a small wave, observed with affection by Asir. Win cries when Asir leaves for work, but Nana comforts him, relating the separation to a past experience of her own.